Welcome to our community. Susie Thomas here with you this morning. And we are visiting with some friends from the Salvation Army of Dover. We've got Lieutenant Andrew and Amanda Allen. Good morning to both of you.
Good morning.
Good morning.
And you both are lieutenants, so I should have said lieutenants, Andrew and Amanda. And first of all, I think everyone's always interested in finding out how young people get involved with Salvation Army. Did you grow up with it? Were you attracted to something about the ministry? Want to hear from both of you.
Well, I'll go first. I started attending when I was 5 through the Sunbeam program, which is kind of like our Girl Scouts. And so I started going. Then I started going on Sunday, and then my older brother went with me, and my parents would come every once in a while for special events. And I just never left, and I always kept going, and I joined the youth band. I went to Italy with the youth band when I was 16. My mom was very nervous about me flying for the first time, but it was great, and I've just experienced so much of the Salvation Army, and I've been so thankful for God and what He's done through the Salvation Army to me, and it's just been an unbelievable experience that I've had.
Is it okay if I ask this? It sounds like you were the one who brought your family to church. Were you raised in the church, in a different church, and you started getting the family to come to the Salvation Army? Or were you the one really that was bringing the family to church in the first place?
I would actually say it was my grandmother. She had gone to the Salvation Army just 30 minutes from where I lived, and my dad had gone as a kid with my grandmother, but then stopped going, and then when he had kids, thought I should really put them into something like I had growing up. Mm-hmm. And because my grandmother was going to the Salvation Army where she lived, my dad thought, let's do the Salvation Army. And so they started me with their programs just to see how I would do. I was actually too young for their program, and they didn't know it at the time, so they let me go until they figured out my age. And then by then I was old enough to do it anyway. But so, yeah, it was actually really my grandma, I would say, who was the blueprint for the Salvation Army in my life.
Very cool. What was it, besides Grandma, that attracted you personally? I mean, it's neat to know that Grandma did this first, but there's got to be something that grabs our own hearts and brings us in. What was that about it?
I think it's just how it's such a personal, intimate relationship with God that you feel at the Salvation Army. It feels like home. So even though I had a great home growing up with my mom and my dad, the Salvation Army was home for me. And even though the officers changed, every officer that came in felt like, a second mom and dad to me, always was very passionate, very loving to people. And that always stood out to me. And I knew that no matter what I was going through in my life, I could always go to the officers that were there at the Salvation Army, that I could trust them. The people were very committed, cared very deeply about me. And, when things go wrong in life, you want someone there to help you out. And the Salvation Army has always been there for me.
Mm-hmm. It certainly is for a lot of people. Andrew, how about you? What brought you into the Salvation Army in the first place?
Well, I actually didn't grow up in the Salvation Army. My dad, when I was 17, he sent me to a Salvation Army summer camp to be a camp counselor. And I didn't even know it at the time, but it was a Salvation Army camp. And I just started learning all about the Salvation Army, who they were, that they're more than the thrift store. And I met Amanda there.
At camp?
My future,
yes.
yeah.
Camp romance.
That's right.
Those are the best.
Yeah, so we stayed really close, and she brought me to her Salvation Army Corps that she was going to. And I just immediately felt a connection there. Like she said, you really get this feeling of having an intimate relationship with Christ when you're there. So that just really drew me there.
Mm-hmm.
So.
It's one thing to be a camp counselor. It's another thing to really go all in, become a cadet, lieutenant, make a lifetime commitment to each other and to the ministry of the Salvation Army. Can you talk about that a little bit?
Yeah, I didn't receive my calling to become a Salvation Army officer until I was around 19.
That old?
Yeah. We were in New York City, and we were at a divisional meeting where people from all over the greater New York area was meeting, and I just felt God calling me to take on this role as a Salvation Army officer. Mm-hmm. And it's funny because I told Amanda that night, And she told me, she said, I received that calling when I was younger, but she never told me that. So it's funny how God really worked that out in both of our lives. So
yeah, because explain how this works. In Salvation Army, you do serve as a team, as a couple. So both the husband and the wife must have received the same calling. That can be funny if you're dating. It's like, okay, because it's making more than one commitment. Talk about that a bit.
Yeah, it's weird because I received my calling when I was 14. So knowing that at 14, it was exciting. I was excited. There was a couple of my friends and we were talking about it, and we all felt the same way. And actually, some of them were in training with me, so that was pretty cool because we received our calling around the same age. But then knowing that and growing up and wanting to date people and have a relationship was always in the back of my mind. And the devil tries to steer you off that path, so bringing the wrong people into your life and taking you away from God. And then when I met Andrew and we started dating and he started coming to the Salvation Army, I didn't know where my future was. I always knew that I was going to be an officer. And when he had told me that he had felt the call, that's kind of when I knew I was going to marry him and spend the rest of my life with him. And we had been dating for a little over a year at that point. And then we got engaged in that November and married about a year and a half after that. So, the rest was history.
That's got to be such a great confirmation for both of you.
Yeah,
that this is the calling, this is what God wants me to do with my life. And oh, good. Phew, you too.
Yeah. Yes.
That's great. Also, what's really wonderful is seeing young people taking on this call. You said you went with a lot of friends who had that same feeling. Have they also continued on this path?
Yes, actually. We've got friends that are in Georgetown, Kentucky. They just graduated with us. Another friend, where, Donnie?
Medina.
I won't say it wrong because I'm not from Ohio. Medina. And the three of us, we received our calling around the same time. So pretty exciting to see them be in college with me for those 2 years and then out on the field. And they're actually relatively close to me, too, so that's great.
It's always a big responsibility to go into a community. What are people's reactions and responses when they meet these young millennials that are the Salvation Army lieutenants? Yeah. Tell us how that goes.
It's been going very well so far. We've felt very welcomed into the community. It's been a very good transition. We have 2 small kids, and people just love them. It's only been a couple of months that we've been here, but we already feel so comfortable, with the people at our core, and our neighbors have 2 young kids, and they love our kids. So it's been wonderful being here and just getting to know the community
and family life in the Salvation Army. You're already getting your children in, but how old are they?
My son is 2.5. My daughter is 1.5.
Oh, you know what? You're in boot camp.
Yeah.
You're just all the way around. You are a busy family,
yes.
Young mom, and you've got the responsibility of ministry as well. How do you juggle it? How do you make that all work?
You just got to be really proactive and set your schedule very well.
Flexible.
Be very flexible. I think if I didn't have kids, I feel like I'd be the laziest person in the world because my kids keep me on top of everything. They wake me up at 6 a.m, and they keep me on a good schedule of how to run my day. And we're very thankful for a great daycare that has them during the day while we're in the office taking calls and helping people and things like that. So
yeah,
it's just prioritizing.
So fun. Well, busy family, doing great work. Let's talk about the Salvation Army itself. The services. Some people are still not familiar with all the numerous services that the Salvation Army provides to a community.
Well, we have a soup kitchen Monday through Friday that where we serve a hot meal, and usually we've been serving around 50 people daily. And we have emergency food assistance where people can come in if they have an emergency, and we can provide them with a food basket. We offer rent and utility assistance. We have a fantastic caseworker at our core that we're very lucky to have, and we serve anywhere from 10 people all the way up until 50 people. So,
Wow.
Yeah.
Every day. Monday
That's
through
around a
Friday.
month. That's on a monthly basis. We do what we can to help people who are in need.
Let's talk a little bit about the soup kitchen. I'm curious to know if it's run and operated similarly to Canton's. I'm so impressed with how Canton's Salvation Army, people who come regularly, it's more like a time of fellowship. It's a sit-down meal. It's not a soup kitchen where you go through a soup line, but people are served. And there's just something really elegant about it. It's so respectful of the people that they're coming to go out to dinner. And it's really a time of breaking bread together. And you see some people come from the beginning and they stay until the very end because they're talking to all the various people. Yeah. Is Dover's run similarly to that? And I always loved being the dessert tray lady because they loved seeing you come around and they get to choose their own desserts. I'm curious about where the food comes from and if that's the same kind of scenario that you have.
Yeah, I would say ours is very similar. Right now we get our food either from churches in the area, actually, who sign up and say we're going to come to the Salvation Army and cook a meal for you and serve it to the people. So churches will come and bring their own food and cook it in our facility and serve it. And when churches aren't signed up on those days, either we get donations of even regulars who come into the soup kitchen will donate items, or we go and actually order from the Akron Food Bank, and that's been a really great resource for us. And I've been so blessed by the soup kitchen being here in Dover. It's just something different and unique, and we go down at the start of Soup Kitchen and we do, a couple-minute devotional with them and pray with them, and all the people know us and they look forward to seeing us and we look forward to seeing them, and there's always prayer requests going on and asking how people's kids are doing or how their family's doing, and similar to Canton, we have people who serve the people who come in, so it's just a nice time where people can come in and sit down and relax and talk to their friends and catch up, see what's going on. So it's been great.
So great. I love Soup Kitchen.
The food is so good.
And the food, we have
so good.
We have a great kitchen coordinator who works very well at cooking meals and organizing the churches when they come in.
And often, who are the people who take advantage of Soup Kitchen? Because it's not necessarily the homeless. It's often the working poor who are just trying to stretch a dollar as far as they can. And even though it's hard to believe that that's happening in Dover, Ohio, can you talk about that? Who gets a chance to take advantage of this?
Well, anyone is welcome to come into the Soup Kitchen. All of our staff are in there. We eat there on a daily basis, and if we ever have a visitor that comes in, we'll invite them in for a meal. So really, we don't have any restrictions on who can and who can't come in and enjoy a hot meal. So
I think it's just amazing to see how the families come in and young children coming in. But again, that fellowship that takes place there is great. And then that's an opportunity to share gospel in a variety of ways. Yes. And that's what Salvation Army is all about.
That's right.
Yes. Do you also have kind of special things? They would sometimes have haircut day before kids would go back to school and backpacks and kinds of things. What other kinds of services are you providing for families in the Dover area?
Well, we actually did do a backpack drive in August.
Yeah.
Yes.
To get ready for school?
Yes, to get ready for school. So we had a budget of about $1,500 to spend, and we worked out a great deal with Staples. They were very great to us and working out a deal with us for supplies. And we were able to help over 100 kids with book bags in our area. That was great to see the community come in and receive goods from us. It felt good to do that.
We're speaking with Lieutenants Andrew and Amanda Allen. They're from the Salvation Army in Dover. We're going to take a break. We'll be back after these words. You're listening to Our Community.